When it comes to Sri Lankan context, overproduction of fruits and vegetables causes huge food waste generation in the back end of food supply chain.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Hands for Hunger, the first episode of Save the Feed podcast by us against hunger volunteers of foodforall Kadamandiya Food Bank. As volunteers of Kadamandiya Food Bank, we aim to achieve two sustainable development goals. They are SDG 2, Zero Hunger, and SDG 12, Responsible Consumption and Production. So we want to raise awareness about reducing food wastage and food bank concept through this podcast series. To give an introduction to these topics, we have invited an expert. She is a research officer at the National Institute of Post-Harvest Management. We are honored to have Miss Amanda Weerasinghe with us today. Hello, madam. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good.
Okay, madam. So working as a researcher sounds really cool, but at the same time, it sounds pretty challenging. So could you tell us about life as a researcher and how you feel about your career?
First, Medini, I should say thank you for the invitation. If I'm speaking frankly with you, now I feel like I got a highly deserved job opportunity. But when I was studying at Uvalasa University for my bachelor's degree, my one and only intention was to be a lecturer. That was the only motivation to me to start my higher studies also. But I didn't get any opportunity for that. But still, I was lucky enough to get this job opportunity under the Ministry of Agriculture in year 2017. Now I feel like I'm in the correct path. This is very dynamic and interesting field, and each and every day we have to generate solutions for existing burning problems in post-harvest sector. And I think my career enables me to serve my country at my best level. As a researcher, I can say that I'm happy with my career.
It is very fascinating to hear about your life as a researcher from your perspective. Now, moving on to today's topic, according to a report by Oxfam, every minute, 11 people die of hunger. Meanwhile, roughly 1/3 of food produced for human consumption gets wasted. So what is food wastage and the current situation locally and globally?
Medini. Prior to answer the question you asked, I would like to clarify two different terms, food loss and food waste. Of course, both food losses and wastes are generated throughout the food supply chain. If we go for the definition, the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization has differentiated food loss and food waste in two different ways. According to them, we can identify food loss as the decrease in the quantity or quality of the food resulting from decisions and actions taken by food suppliers in the chain. Here, they have excluded retailers, food service providers, and consumers. So, simply I would say food loss is the result of decisions and actions taken by suppliers. And also, food loss is mainly caused by the functioning of the food production and supply systems or its institutional and their legal frameworks. Now I will come to the point. Food waste. Term food waste is defined as the decrease in the quantity or quality of food resulting from decisions and actions taken by retailers, food service providers, and consumers. Or else we can identify it as the result of purchasing decisions of consumers or decisions of retailers and food service providers. But it affects for the consumer behavior for sure. Okay? The food waste is mainly caused by economic social behaviors and poor stock management, and mainly due to negligence. Since you have asked about the local and global scenarios, first I would like to come to the local condition. When it comes to Sri Lankan context, overproduction of fruits and vegetables causes huge food waste generation in the back end of the food supply chain. According to the statistics, the composition of the solid waste generated in Sri Lanka has a relatively high share of organic and biodegradable composition. It is around 50 to 76% of the total municipal solid waste, with an average of 56.6%. In general, it is assumed that nearly half of this biodegradable municipal solid waste is food waste. From that means this biodegradable municipal solid waste, more than 40% come from restaurants, markets and meat shops, according to the research studies. When it comes to the global context, FAO reports reveals that 1.3 billion tons of edible foods, equivalent to 1/3 of global production of food, is wasted annually. And this is enough to feed around 3 billion people. So think about the wastage. At the same time, the value of this wasted amount of food is around $680 billion. Actually, it is kind of a huge loss for the economy. And this huge waste in food definitely contributes to the increasing in poverty and hunger all over the world.
Like it seems like we have enough resources to generate food for everyone, but due to wastage, just like you said just now, we waste food enough to feed 3 billion people. So this due to this wastage, many people end up suffering. So what are the major reasons for food wastage?
Well, what my feeling is, uh, everyone is afraid not having enough food, but few care about having too much. This is the root cause for food waste. In researches, as I previously said, it says that more than 40% of food waste is coming from restaurants, supermarkets and meat shops. Most restaurants and hotels are required to overproduce because they do not wish to see any customer disappointment due to running out of food. In supermarkets also we can see the same theory. The owners do not wish to see even a single space on their shelves, and they always want to see the fully stacked shelves. Of course, it would be okay for the preserved items or the products which are having lengthy shelf lives, but what will happen to fresh items? What would be their destiny? These mindsets actually firmly push them to maximize their produce or the products without considering the potential waste. And the rest of food waste comes from personal use, that means households. And actually, there are many reasons behind the food wastages. Like produce does not meet specifications and over ordering, overstocking and poor demand forecasting, and over portioning, sometimes over preparation, and poor preparation skills and poor handling, and also sometimes produce passes expiry dates without being sold. So these facts can be identified as major reasons for food wastes.
Now that we have realized the major reasons for food wastage, Other than people suffering from hunger, I'm sure food wastage impacts the world in a more dire way. So, what are the negative impacts of food wastage?
Yeah, Mediti, with refer to your question, what my feeling is, incapability in ensuring the food security will be the major impact. Other than that, uh, we can experience negative impacts on the environment like water pollution, land filling, and greenhouse gas emission. Not only that, but also we have to face a lot of economic losses and poverty due to this food wastages. As a whole, these things are very pathetic because food wastes can directly or indirectly damage biodiversity, can destroy natural habitats, can use too much precious land and water, and it contributes to climate change.
Listening to negative impacts of food wastage, it is so clear that managing food wastage is really important. So let's talk about the importance of food wastage management and how it impacts food security. Earlier, just a little bit earlier, you said that a negative impact of food wastage is food, like it damages food security. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, actually, first I will go for the definition for food security. Food security is the physical, social, and economic access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food. In fact, this is crucial for our global population because growing population requires significantly increased food production utilizing limited resources. And at the same time, this food waste represents lost opportunities for food security. As an example, reduced availability and accessibility for the resources. Then food waste implies wasting the resources allocated for production such as land, water, energy and other inputs. Hence, preventing food loss and food waste are critically important to overcome the future challenges associated food security for sure.
I think we got a very clear idea about food security and how food management, food wastage management impacts the world. So I think there's no point in talking about problems without trying to find out solutions. The way I see it, both supply chains as well as consumers are responsible for food wastage. So how can we manage food wastage from all aspects?
In this regard, we have to minimize the food wastages at each level of the food supply chain. Under this, we can mainly talk about producers, retailers, and the consumers. First, I will talk about the waste management strategies for producers or manufacturers in brief. There we can identify several points like collaboration with other farmers to avoid overproduction whilst meeting the demand, and more secure contracts between buyers and producers, and relevant and timely market intelligence for producers to know when to release the food stocks and to when to harvest and where to ship to reach the optimal markets for the items, and skills and capacity development on good packaging and distribution like things. And when it comes to retail points, uh, there we have to pay our attention on using clear expiry dates basically because uh, most of the case they tend to use the best before or sell by dates, but instead of these two categories we have to use clear expiry dates, and using resealable or reclosable packagings, and promoting subdivided packs and make smaller portions available at reasonable prices, that means sachets like things, and provide information on preparation and storage, and strengthen the food redistribution mechanisms. Finally, we have to pay attention, or we can educate the consumers to reduce the food waste. Here we can educate them to have meal plans and to use proper storage facilities based upon the requirement, and also to assess the edibility of food prior to purchase. In this case, we can use test samples, and if they are okay with us, then can go for larger quantities. Those are some practices we can follow in order to reduce the food waste in all aspects in food supply chain.
It seems like with really small changes, we can stop food wastage and help a lot of people. So thank you, madam. With all that, we have come to the end of our first episode. This has been a very interesting and informative session. So thank you, Miss Amanda Weerasinghe, Research Officer at the National Institute of Post-Harvest Management, for your valuable time.
Thank you very much, Miss Medini, and it was a great pleasure to me to be here today with you all. And thank you very much for this opportunity, and I extremely appreciate your good job and wish you all the very best for your future endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you, madam.
Okay.
So, as I said before, we aim to raise awareness about reducing food wastage and food bank concept through this podcast series. So you can know more about Seed the Feed podcast series and Kadamandiya Food Bank by visiting our official pages, and we really appreciate your feedback on Facebook and YouTube. With that, we will be back with our next episode, Expert's View. Until then, stay safe and say no to food wastage. A big shout out to the main sponsor of Seed the Feed podcast series, Impulse, which is one of the leading brands not only in photography but in a variety of media fields in Sri Lanka.